Hey everyone, today we have Miss Angie Carlson, a super duper financial coach, and she's going to share a little bit of her story, maybe some of her mistakes and breakthroughs, really just to give hope to everyone on this call in their coaching journey. Right before we hit record, Angie was talking about how when she was going through the journey, not a lot of people were open and willing to have that conversation and look behind the curtain and see the operations and maybe some of the challenges that us as coaches face. And I think that'll be extremely valuable, really, to anyone watching this. We'll have some time at the end for questions because I know Angie and I were talking on and off, I think, this past week, and she's just a wealth of knowledge. And super, super appreciative and blessed to have her set some time aside to, inspire us in our coaching journey, just bring hope to the very difficult challenges we face starting our own business and all of that. Angie will take it from here.
All right. Well, thank you. So my journey at a coach, I'm going to keep this as brief and succinct as possible, is I started my coaching journey in January 2021. So I graduated FCMT December 2020, not knowing my mom would get very sick and pass away in March. And at the time, I was not a Ramsey preferred coach. I was just doing it on my own, but that delayed my journey into the Ramsey preferred coaching world because I decided to become a coach in May 2021 to hopefully have access to leads, because prospecting is really awkward when your mom just passes away, because it just didn't feel right to prospect. And when I joined RPC at that time, you were required to close 5 clients on your own before you had access to any Ramsey leads. So if you're currently in the RPC world and if you had to imagine closing 5 clients first, how different would your coaching practice be, having zero access to leads starting out as a coach? It was hard. Let me just say, it was very, very hard. I got my first client in August 2021, and we did a service trade because we were both very new coaches. I needed her service, she needed my service. So I met with her weekly, she met with me monthly, and I paid her the difference. So basically, didn't really make any money doing that, but I was just thrilled to get the experience. That counted as a client. I needed clients. Everything's good. Um, Clients 2 and 3, my dad paid for 1 session for himself and a neighbor just because I need to get to 5 people, loving $100 a session. And then clients 4 was a free session. So my first year as a coach, I made a whopping $200 paid for by my dad. And then I got my 5th client finally in March 2022. And at the time, I charged that client 120 a session. And then I did something crazy. I left my full-time job after making a whopping $320 as a coach. Yes, I'm insane. That's okay. That worked. It worked for me because I made a commitment to my job. I'd stay for 10 years. My 10-year commitment was up. And so basically, I forced my hand. I had to make this business work no matter what. So imagine being 15 months into your coaching journey. You've made $320. You've paid for FCMT. You're probably paying for leads. All that prospecting time, all that stuff was unpaid. And I come home and realize very quickly, I have no clue what in the heck I'm doing. I don't know how to create leads. I don't know how to find opportunity. At the time, RPC leads were zip code based, so I would get one lead like every 2 to 3 months. I needed to learn how to develop leads ASAP. So I did something that most coaches in this situation would not do. I hired a business coach. Why not spend more money? One of the best things I've ever done, because my business coach had started so many businesses. They knew how to develop leads. They knew how to start conversation. They knew how to find opportunity. They knew where I needed to be. And since I've worked with that business coach, I've developed over 1,300 leads for coaching. So that's like about I've been with about 2 years. So I have over 1,300 coaching leads now. Where most people would have quit at that point, I hired a business coach. And after I hired the business coach, I think I closed 1 or 2 clients and then went through a season of 50 no's in a row. Yes, 50 no's after consults. Hour on consult, no after every one. Like y'all said, I am like insane at this point because most coaches would have quit long, long before on there. Where did I find my business coach? I found him through he had worked with a different financial coach and she introduced us, and I hired him because he had been through the financial coaching experience, but also had the business experience I needed. So he knew my business really well from both sides. But I interviewed a couple of them. And then things started turning. And then I was starting to get more income and more clients, but I also joined a high level mastermind because I realized I don't want to sound like Ramsey. I don't, everyone's messaging is the same. Everyone's saying, do a budget, financial freedom, get your finances in order. And I'm like, and not that that's untrue, but I don't want to sound like that. I don't want to be the coach that just blends in with the crowd. I want to stand out, be my bold, unique, authentic self, and just see what happens. So I joined a high level mastermind. So once again, I've put a lot of, and this has all been with cash. I've put a lot of money into my business to get me where I am. Not that that is necessarily required. It's just a route I took. And between the business coach and the mastermind coach that I hired in 2023, my business has exploded. Like, I've already made more money this year than I made in all 2023 exploded. And I have the potential with for this month to not only be a record month, I could potentially double my record month, and my record month is 10K. So, and even if I don't, I've still made 9K this month. I'm good. Like, I'm gonna be fine. But basically, my slow start was like unusually slow, and now my extension up is like so much faster than any Ramsey coach I've met. I might be wrong. If I am, please tell me because I'd love to have a conversation with them. But what I did is I just really looked at me and stopped asking so many questions that coaches typically ask and really focus on me. Where do I think I can make a difference? And for me, that's my messaging. I was talking about have financial freedom, live a life, free of financial stress. And people were like, Angie, what in the hell is that? I don't know what that is. I don't know if I want that. I mean, it's kind of like saying, let's heal your inner divine spirit. I'm not going to buy that. I have no clue what the flip it is. And so getting really clear on my messaging, how I talk about it, finding my niche of money communication, talking to the problem in the way my audience understands it, stop shoving a budget down their throats, has really allowed me to stand out online where I know there's plenty of other coaches stalking my social media going, how in the heck does Angie do this? How in the heck does she talk about money? I get people coming to me from social media. They're like, oh my gosh, Angie, I'm looking all over for you. Or Angie, I love your stuff. I don't think it's right for me to work with you, but do you have any more free resources you can connect me with or anything else I can do? And let me know every time you have a master class. I want to be there too. And so what I've done is I've basically threw out like the traditional prospecting model of calling a person and doing because that was just exhausting. I hated it. I was burnt out. I was like, people aren't picking up the phone. No one's calling me back. No one's booking an appointment. Y'all feel me here? And instead, I shifted how I prospected. I shifted my time. I shifted my energy. I shifted my focus. And now my business is like taken off. I mean, I think I've made like 75% of the money I've ever made as a coach in the last 9 months. It has been wild. And I know I'm just getting started because I made the right investments, got myself into the rooms I needed to be in, not the rooms right for everybody else, the rooms that are right for me, and just doubled down on the things I thought I should do, even if everybody else thinks it's crazy. So that's the very high level summary. Kept it to about 8 minutes. Questions?
Yeah, Angie, I really appreciate your whole story. I think you just emphasizing the need to, really individualize your own practice and not just be a subset of Ramsey was like absolutely incredible because I don't think I got a chance to tell you either. But, that's kind of the journey I'm on. And I noticed a lot of other coaches too trying to make themselves a little different and clarify their offer. I appreciate you sharing that quick snippet of your journey and your success. So definitely we can leave it open for questions if you want to put it in the chat or if you want to unmute your mic.
So I answered Darylyn with finding my business coach. I, like I said, found them. It's just through the networking and connection calls. And if you're not like you think of prospecting as calling a lead, if you are not networking, start. For the love of God, start networking. I just got one of my best introductions ever. And you know how many networking conversations I had to have to get connected to that person? 8. So I talked to person A, referred to person B, referred to person C, all the way down to this 8th person. And holy crap, a huge door might have just opened for my business. But most people stop at person 1 because I didn't get a client.
Yeah.
And since I didn't get a client, they're worthless to me. I never think that. I am always just like, okay, I know I'm going to go through doors. I know majority of the doors I go through may not be anything, but I know the doors that I find that are incredible are going to be like, wow, incredible. I mean, some of the people I've met have generated so much business for me that it totally pays for all my other networking time.
Can you define what you categorize as effective networking? Well, we all do the Chamber of Commerce stuff and the glad handing and those kinds of things, but it seems like there's a right way and a wrong way. How would you define effective networking?
Yeah, so for me, effective networking is where can I meet more people who might know the people that I want to meet? To me, that's effective networking. And also part of effective networking is now who are two, three, four people in my network that I can connect every single person I talk to with. Because now, after I've been doing this long, I have a very extensive network. Is there another financial coach I can introduce them to? Is there somebody I've met in travel? Like I've connected to psychics and I am not in that world. Like, so how, like, that, but to me, that's all part of networking is not only like what doors open for me, what doors can I open for them? And my goal is to always give out 10x the referrals I receive instead of being focused on, oh, this is what I need and this is what I think I need. And if I don't get this, it's not good enough and it's not worth the time. No. I mean, and for me, I go in spurts. Like sometimes I'll network, I may not network for a month and then I'll do 30 or 40 networking calls in a month. It just kind of depends on my schedule and my client load. So I've had to start fitting networking around my client load, which is fine because I still do it. But that's what I do is effective networking. The other way I would say I do effective networking is how can I serve my audience? And serving my audience is maybe I'm doing a live stream. Maybe I'm putting a post. Maybe I'm with a client, they're sharing their testimonial. It's always, for me, it's just always about how can I best serve the people in my world today? Because if I serve them well, not only will they come, they're going to bring all their friends with them too. And if they start seeing like, "Oh, wow, Angie is the go-to person for money communication. Everything I read about what Angie and what she teaches about communication makes so much sense. And wow, she knows everything I've tried that isn't working." Like, okay, yeah, I need to work with her. And one of the things I did is a free masterclass on how to create more cash in your bank account. And I have the recording in my group. So anyone who comes into my group can watch it. And now my participants are coming back saying, Angie, oh my gosh, these things actually resulted in us getting a check. Yeah, because now I'm opening the door to, hey, you can look at your financial situation differently and get money. And so to me, I consider all that effective networking because that is what gets me closer to what they want. And selfishly, it gets me closer to what I want.
Angie, you said you joined a HLMM. Could you talk more about that?
I joined a mastermind working on my message. So that mastermind was helpful because I was with other people who weren't financial coaches talking about their messaging, and it made it very clear where my gaps were. And so I'll just go over one because I posted this in the Ramsey group, but like a lot of financial coaches will talk about financial freedom. And my audience told me that's only for billionaires. I'm never going to get to it. And I think anyone who talks about it is a liar. Take a guess at what two words never appear in my messaging without being clearly defined now.
Yeah, financial freedom.
Because my audience told me they don't want that. Okay, great. So what do they want? And then I talk to that. Because if they need to see me as a resource to help them, if they think the only thing I'm going to give them is financial freedom and they don't want that, I can post 30, 40 times a day and it ain't going to matter. And also how I say it, like I am a very bold, direct person. And if you've ever seen my social media is very bold and very direct. So if you are my person, come on in. If you are not my person, great, I will find you a referral. And either one's okay, by the way. I mean, I had a consult recently that they wanted to work with me and I chose not to take them on, even though they could have paid me in full.
Wow. That is bold.
Because I know what I want and I'm going for it. I know a lot of coaches think I would be absolutely nuts doing that. That's just me stepping in my next evolution
Yeah.
and putting my needs before my bank account, which is something as financial coaches we struggle with big time because we've been taught all about the bank account, all the importances of the bank account. And I'm
Yeah.
not dismissing that. That's totally true. And I've talked to too many people who are seven-figure net worth who are scared to spend $5 because they're going to lose their $5 million net worth. That is not okay either.
What social media sites are you on besides Facebook?
Facebook, Instagram, Alignable, LinkedIn.
Okay.
I think that's all of them. And I'll post reels, I'll post one-liners, I'll post long form posts. Like I post all types of different content.
Okay.
My handle's on the screen if you want to go look at it. It's
Okay.
join the club. I know there's plenty of coaches watching my social media. And I know that because they're DMing me asking me about it.
Can you walk us through a little bit how frequently you will contact a lead back, or how frequently, or how many times will you go at it before you finally give up on that lead?
I never give up on my lead. In terms of how often I contact them, I get leads right now. And outside of my Ramsey leads, if they join my email list, I don't contact them. I let my email drip do its job. If I get a Ramsey lead, even if they book a consult, I'll call and introduce myself. Otherwise, I'll do 2 phone calls and maybe a text. I move on. I just get too many leads to do it. And what's happening is they've been so well served by between my social media, between my free ebook, between my master classes, between all my free resources, that all of a sudden I look and like, oh, there's a consult on my calendar. Oh, that person's been in my world 2 years. Okay, they're just finally ready. I just choose to not make it a problem of me following up with them. I choose to always serve, and what they need to hear is going to resonate. So I don't spend hours calling my leads. I don't put them on a rotation. I might try to call them once a year. Now that I have 1,300 of them, I don't think I can do it. And you know what? That's okay, because I trust that the people who are meant to work with me are going to be the ones to work with me. Now, granted, if they've expressed interest or they've booked a consult now, like I'll follow up with them, of course. But even then, I don't do it a lot because I am not desperate for clients. If I have to bring you into my world dragging and screaming, I don't want you in my world. They're too much work. And that's just how I've chosen to define my business, because I own my business. My business does not own me. It wasn't the answer you were expecting to hear. That's not a very popular answer. It's just what I do.
Well, I think that answer is, I don't know what to say. I believe what you're saying. I also believe most of us aren't experiencing that same problem. So, that helps, but not
Right. I mean,
for the people that are.
it took me time to get here. Like I wasn't doing this till like my first 2 years in. I mean, before I was like 2 years in, I was calling them like maybe a couple times a month. I still had an email list, but I didn't have my drip campaign. So I would maybe touch them like 2 or 3 times a month, at least via email, and then maybe call them like every 3 months. Was kind of what I did. But now that I have 21 months worth of Facebook posts going. I've got a group that has probably 20 hours of video content in it. I've got my ebook. Like people can come into my world now and binge my resources. And so while that took a lot of time to get there, because obviously if I'm producing that much content, that was hundreds, if not thousands of hours of time. But now that I have it, my world's easier, because now if I get a Ramsey lead, like, and they come in and they say, I've got this problem, I always text them a Facebook post related to that problem, because I want them to see my take on it, to evaluate me, to make sure they still want to have a consult with me. And I've had some who've got that post and they're just like, we don't think we're going to be a good match for you. Great. Let's get you hooked up with someone else. Like I choose not to make it a problem. Like I think that's probably one of the biggest things I've done is everything I thought was a problem. And it's not that I don't have any, but they're just very different now. But the things that I always thought were a problem was more because I was creating the problem in my head thinking it was a problem than the fact it was actually a problem. So what I mean is if a problem was I'm not calling my leads twice a month, I only got to it once a month, I was just like, okay, once a month's good enough, and not beating myself up for not calling everybody twice a month.
Many of your leads are coming from local business versus elsewhere, national, international.
I get very few local leads. My leads are almost exclusively national.
Okay.
I mean, I did do a local trade show that brought me in a good chunk of leads. So, I mean, I guess with that would change it. But in terms of my processes that I normally do on a daily basis, by far, most of my leads are national versus local. For me, if I would have stayed local, I would be up a creek. That's why I decided to go national. But I know some people who are local and they are killing it. So it really just depends on the coach. And that's like the hard thing about this is when you're new is that every coach does it differently. Every coach has their rhythm. And then like when I was new, I'd be like, I just want the freaking process that works. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But that also doesn't work, because then if I'm trying to sound like David, well, that's not going to work because I'm going to come off as fake. And so part of this is we have to mold into what we want this to look like in order to be authentic and good to us. For me, it just took me 2 years to figure out what that was. For some coaches, they figure it out in a month. Some coaches figure it out in 5 years.
You mentioned the importance of a coach, of your coaches. Is it possible to be overcoached? Is it possible to reach out too often and get too much
I would say yes.
guidance?
I would say yes, because each coach does things a little differently. And sometimes, like, at least for me, I need time to integrate. Like right now, I'm getting coached by my one coach 2 times a week. And every week she takes vacation, I am like, oh, thank God, because I need time to implement the coaching just because it's very deep and very relevant. And there's times I'll go to the coaching and specifically ask not to be coached because I need to implement so much. Because if you're looking to absorb knowledge, you're going to work with 10 coaches and just absorb, absorb, absorb. If you're looking to apply knowledge to grow your business, you're going to work with 1, maybe 2 max, because you need the rest of the time to apply everything you're learning. So like my 2 coaches complement each other now because the one helped me build my foundation. The second one poured gasoline on it, but now my first one's more transitioned into helping me build systems and processes, where my other one takes care of everything else. And she doesn't do systems and processes. So they complement each other well now, but I needed both of them to get to where I was. Like I couldn't have had the success in the high level program without working with my first coach either. So for me, that's what I took. I mean, but I also believe as a coach, it's kind of like I don't want to go to a doctor who doesn't go to a doctor. I don't want to be in a cab driver who doesn't think they should drive. So, I mean, I need to make sure that I'm always growing my craft. And by working with different coaches, I've kind of found ways to put my own spin on what they're teaching, which has made me very effective, in my opinion. Because I'm not trying to copy what this coach does or that coach does. I'm like, okay, cool. I love how they do that. I will never do that way. Like one of my coaches, she posts pictures of herself in a bikini on social media. You know what? That's great, but I ain't doing that. Just not, it just, I could, but it's just not my thing. And that's okay. You know, I'll be posting pictures of myself in the farm, probably standing in manure, and I don't think my coach would ever do that. And that's okay because we're both very effective the way we do it. That's just learning. But she taught me how to do all of this without me becoming her. And so when I teach my clients about money, I don't want them to become clones of me. When I teach them money communication, I don't expect them to communicate the way my spouse and I do. I want to help them find the methods that work for them and or fine tune what they're doing if they're already close. Because some of my clients, they come in thinking they know nothing. They actually know a lot more than what they think, which means I don't have to go back and start at step 0. We can start at step 10 or at step 40 or at step 100 or wherever they are. But I had to have a process in place to evaluate that too. Just like I do with my coaches and what I need. Like I'm having so much success with my current coaches, I'll stay with them as long as they'll have me. I mean, my transformation's been, 26 months ago, I was making 120 a month as a coach, and I've had a 10K month and a 10K week. My coaches are helping me do my job. I'm keeping them.
Looking at your Instagram reels, and there's a large number of them. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you went about kind of getting experience working with that medium and what that was like?
I literally just started filming. My reels are not edited. The only editing I do is what I can do within the Instagram app. I film it and drop it. I don't edit my videos at all. I just film it and post it because I've just decided that it doesn't have to be perfect for me to post it. I have some of my reels I would love to delete because I cringe. And those are usually the same reels that people are like, oh my gosh, that's the one that finally sent me over the edge to work with you. So I don't delete anything now. My persistence part 1 call at Ramsey, I would love to delete because now I cringe when I watch it. But yet every time someone sees it, they're like, oh my gosh, Angie, I got so much out of that. Thank you. And so it's just starting and putting it out there. And the thing is, just like your first budget's going to suck, your first reel is going to suck. Your first social media post is probably going to suck too about coaching. But you just got to do it to get used to it. It's just taking those concepts we teach people as a financial coach to do it. And so I just literally grab the camera and Instagram app, talk to it, post it. Like that's, I wish I had something more elaborate to tell you. I just don't.
I mean, how frequently are you posting?
I post usually something every day, Monday through Friday. You don't have to do that. I mean, if I'm on vacation, I might do 3 times a week. But I mean, I have posted, I think I did miss 1 week on vacation. I purposely took off, but I post at least once a day, Monday through Friday, since July of 2022. So I'm going on almost 2 years of full-time content. So when I So like when my Randy leads come to me, I have on my blurb, vet me with my finance coach AC handle, because before they pick me and I get charged a fee, I want them to think I'm the perfect coach for them.
Yeah.
And most of them that have picked me have said, Angie, oh my gosh, we love your social media. How could we not pick you? So what's that doing to my quality of lead? I don't get leads in crisis mode because they look at me and they're like, gosh, she's a lot of work. Okay, great. So I work very hard to bring in the leads I want to bring in. I don't want every single person who wants financial coaching. I don't want leads who have never opened a bill. I would lose my mind coaching them. And I've worked, and that's one thing the coach has helped me work on, is how do I say it in a way that allows them to understand it? Because we all have a lot of knowledge in our head. We just don't know what to do with it. And with money communication, I see it all the time. People are like, why won't my spouse listen to me? When I try to talk about money, why won't they listen to me? And it's actually two-pronged. One, what you're thinking in your head is probably not what you're actually saying. And so, of course, your spouse is getting frustrated. And two, your spouse is doing the same thing, which means you're getting frustrated. Hence why I talk about my process to alleviate that all the time, to the point I'm so sick of talking about it. I am so sick of writing about money communication, y'all. And if you go on my profile for the last year, that's what I've been writing on. So, I mean, I have like 365 days of content pretty much all geared to money communication. You know how many other areas of money I could write on? But no, that's my niche. So that's what I focus on all the flippin' time. And I'll do one-liners. I'll do two-liners. Like one of my best one-liners was, indecision is a luxury your finances cannot afford. I had a lot of people reach out to me after that one because they were like, ooh, or can you tell me more about that? Yeah, absolutely. And oh, I won't invite you to the call at the end of that either. I'll let you tell me if you're ready for a call. I've had so much more fun in my business since I started treating it this way. Like my business is fun, it's light, my clients are amazing, the results are out of this world. I love every session I go into. Where the first couple years it's like, oh, I dread sessions, didn't really want to do some of it. It was a lot of work, but it just, like I said, it just took me that long to figure out my recipe. Now I'm making more money and having the most fun. Like I love this combination. This experiment's working.
Was there a flywheel moment, or did it just over time become so for you?
It had to compound. Like after I went through the 50 no's in a row, that's when the momentum started and I started to see all these things shift. Because I finally figured out my adjustments I need to make. And even now, I mean, I still see adjustments I make now, but I catch them so much earlier in the process than what I did, because I don't go and say, oh, it's my lead, or oh, it's the quality of lead, or oh, it's this, or oh, it's that. I'm always like, okay, what part of this can I actually fix? And then I fix it. And then my results change. And I just, now I've gotten so good at seeing the gaps. And the thing is, as coaches, we teach others to shift their perspective. We're very bad at shifting our own. And the example of people are like, oh, well, this person uses credit cards. And as a coach, people will just reply and say, you should use cash. That conversation ain't going to go anywhere, y'all. But now I have tools in my toolbox that I use that tell me, okay, that have given me instruction of, okay, how can I do this to first open them to the possibility that I have a different perspective instead of just telling them what it is. Because then they're going to be like, oh, what other perspectives does Angie have that actually want to work with her? Instead of just telling them what they should do, they're going to be like, I don't agree with that. No thanks. Peace out. Bye. And I see so many of you all do this, which actually makes my job a whole lot easier. And I used to do it too, because I just didn't know any better. Now I do. And the other thing I see is people only think you can shift perspectives in a conversation. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that. The reason I disagree with that is that's what my social media is for me to go shift perspectives online. I cannot tell you the number of people who have reached out to me because they've read something that I have never talked to, that are just like, Angie, I think about this differently. How much easier is it to prospect when people get interested about you that you don't ever have to talk to? That's what your reels are for. That's what my lives are for. That's what my group is for. They can get me. They get my vibe. They see me show up like this. They can record it. And the beautiful thing about doing all those things is they are saved on the internet forever. Where if I call a lead, I got to call that 100 times and do that same conversation 100 times. I'd much rather do it once, post it, forget it, move on. And if I need that post, I just go pull it and send it to somebody. My life is so much easier with that. Because then I'm not going, but not picking up the phone. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. Of course not. Because now it doesn't matter what they do. I control what I do. I put things on their timetable to open it. We both win.
What are you doing to keep your clients straight one from the next? What software are you using?
I haven't gotten that far yet. It's on my list. I'll let you know when I figure it out.
Okay.
Right now, it's just like a Google Drive. Like I'm not fancy at all. Like this is I'm
How are you
working on it. I'll
how
get
are you
there.
how are you peeking into their finances? Are you looking
I,
at their numbers or are you just letting them self-report to you?
it depends on the client
Okay.
because certain ones, if they can tell me all their numbers down to the penny, I probably don't need to look at their numbers. That's probably not the part they need my help with. They need my help with other sides of that, which then if I need it, I'll ask for it. Some just want to send me everything because they don't know what they're doing. Okay, great. Once again, I have chosen to make because for initially in the beginning, I was having people say yes to co-sign and not start because of all the financial information. What did I do? I've chosen not to make that a barrier. My job is to help them. My job is to not scare them away because I'm asking for so much stuff. So once again, I have things, but if they don't send me everything, once again, I don't make it a problem. I don't demand that they have to have everything perfect before they start with me because I don't want to set the bar that they have to perform perfectly in my container because when life happens in 2 months and they lose their job, they're going to quit because they're not perfect. I get what I need on my screening questions before the consult. You don't have to send me your financial information before a consult. Good Lord, please don't. I actually do better in my consults when I don't have income. I don't have debt. My consult close rate is significantly higher. Now, for some people, I know it's the opposite. They think I'm absolutely nuts for not getting that information. And with my clients, we rarely look at budgets. We look at them like maybe one session, if that, unless they specifically say that's what I want help with. Because most of the time they've done the budgeting, they've done the tracking. That's not the stuff to shift to make progress. We have to look other places for that. And that's my specialty. That's my jam. And that's how my clients go from being behind on their car payment session one to less than 120 days later paying off $35,000 in debt. It's not because we redid the budget thousands of times. It's because we looked at everything differently than they'd ever done. And then they're like, oh, I think I can do this now. And then they just went and did it. I don't even coach them on it. I just tell them to do one thing and they come back and that's what they tell me the next time. And it's like, oh, okay, they applied that coaching fabulously. But I empower them to do that. I let them know you don't have to run decisions by me. You two are a couple, you do it. I had one couple, they chose to take out debt, which is something I would have not advised. The day they took out the debt for the new car was the day their old car they traded in died, and they would have had an $8,000 repair. But because they traded it in and got credit for it, they ended up saving $10,000 by taking on that debt. Because I teach them as part of the process, here's some ways to look at things. I don't tell them don't ever take on debt. I don't say do A, B, C. I teach them here's how you evaluate things. Here's how you two come together. I would rather have my couples be united than they agree with me because I don't want to be in their marriage forever because that would be weird.
So, of course, I've never seen anything from you before. I can tell on screen that you're quite animated. Um,
You think? Oh, I've toned it down a little bit. Just
eh, just a, just a little bit. I'm
just a little
curious.
bit.
I'm curious if your clients are opposites. Opposites attract, or are they animated and they find you relatable, so they select you, or are they less animated and they're looking for somebody to step it up a notch?
I've had both. I have some that they just said they want somebody very direct to tell them like it is. And for those of you who know me in the group, I am very direct and I will tell you how it is to the point I may offend you. I'm on the Ramsey website, if they pick me as a direct coach, I warned them. I'm like, we need to get our definitions of direct the same because I can almost promise you mine is about 10x what their definition of direct is. And usually in the consult, usually one or two sentences in, they're like, Angie, oh my gosh, I love you. I did not know that. Thank you for showing me. So my personality is also what helps me evaluate on my consults. Are they a good fit for me? Because if somebody's really calm, we are not a good fit because I am going to overwhelm the crap out of them. And I know I have a personality that I am either loved or hated. I don't have an in between. And I've had to learn to be okay with that because it used to be like, well, I have to help everybody. I want everybody to succeed. No, there's thousands of financial coaches. I don't need to help everybody else because there's 1,000 other people who can. Great. I'm going to focus on the ones meant for me.
And what is your disc profile, Angie?
Very high C, very high D, low I, and non-existent S.
Okay.
Some of you that are disc experts probably could have pegged that too.
Do you know your Myers-Briggs by chance?
ESTJ.
Hey, Angie, I would like to improve my ability to help communication between couples. What would you recommend I do as far as resources or study or involvement to assist me with that?
Before I answer that, are you married?
Yes.
Okay. I had to go back and evaluate my communication with my spouse to help me see stuff. Because when I say my husband and I struggled, we struggled with our communication big time. And so, and I also do that, and I listen for things in sessions that I know are going to be challenges. So I'll give you an example. I did this post on social media. So like, let's say you have a couple talking about the budget. One says yes, one says no. And no matter what you say, no matter what you do as a coach, the one for yes digs in, the one for no digs in. We've probably had that on a coaching session. We all agree? What's missing from that conversation is the person who's digging their heels in the ground saying, I will never budget, has never told her spouse, growing up, the budget was used as a weapon. Her dad used it to get everything he wanted and always told the mom and the kids no. And so she grew up just like, the last thing I'm ever going to do with my spouse is a budget because I watched it tear my family's marriage apart. Valid perspective. The person digging their budget heels in on yes, we're always going to have a budget, grew up in a house where there were foreclosures and evictions because their parents were so bad with money that they vowed they would never go without a budget. Once again, valid perspective. But if we keep the conversation at the budget level, this couple is more than likely going to get divorced. But when we go down to that next level and be like, wow, they both actually have very valid reasons for their answers. Now we can start having a conversation because now we actually have empathy coming on both sides of it. Now the yes makes sense and now the no makes sense. And until you get that level of communication, you are not going to get anywhere with your couples, in my opinion, because they both have very valid, legitimate reasons for making the choices they've made. And by agreeing with their spouse, it's basically discounting everything they've ever done with money. Of course they're scared. Of course they're going to say no. And they think by agreeing with their spouse, they're going to take their marriage down. And so it's that type of stuff that I talk about that is showing my audience, like, your spouse is not your worst enemy. Your spouse actually has the potential to be your teammate, and here's why. The other thing I look for is things that just seem off. So once again, I'm going to give you an example of this because I feel that my gut is a great financial saving tool. So we're going to imagine that you're working with a house, you're building a house with a contractor. This contractor has come highly recommended. They have glowing reviews online. And when you meet this contractor, day one, they take you window shopping, like literally window shopping to pick out the windows for your house, and tells you before you get a blueprint, you're going to buy all the windows. Even if you know nothing about building a house, I pray to God that you think that is just weird. Like something should feel off. But yet with finances, we're taught to ignore that feeling. If they listened to that gut and stayed with that contractor, they would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars that would be wasted, all because they've been taught to ignore their gut. Translation, working with me is cheaper than that, significantly. Now I have just overcome the objection of my fee.
Are you innately gifted in this arena or did you learn this?
I learned this. I was not innately gifted. This is part of what I've learned how to communicate in a way they understand, because how many people would understand that example and be like, well, yeah, of course I'm not going to hire a contractor who starts with the windows. I think that contractor's an idiot. But how many of them could tell you what the first step is of building a house? I couldn't, but I sure know it's not starting by picking out the windows. And so that's what my audience knows. It's okay that you don't know what step you're on. It's okay that you don't know that. I've got you. That's what you've got me for, to help you evaluate that. And oh, these gut feelings that you've been having, let's put some words to them. Let's figure out what they are so you can start making progress instead of going, I think something's off. Because most of the time, if spouses talk, they say, well, I think something's off. Something probably is off. They just don't know how to say it to their spouse to tell them what it is. Great. That's what you got me for. I'm going to help you put words to that. How many financial coaches do that? Not many that I know of. And these examples I'm giving you all, if you go to my social media profile, if you go far enough back, you'll see all these examples on my social media. That's why I'm giving these on the call, because they're already public. But you can see if my audience goes and reads that, have I shifted how they think about a topic on finances without them ever talking to me? If some stranger on the internet finds my profile and reads it, have I shifted something for them? Yes. And that doesn't require me having a conversation or finding them. They're coming to me because a friend shared a post. Someone did this, someone did that. That has so much more reach than what I could ever do by myself one-on-one. And I had to learn and decide to do this for myself, because if I didn't decide to do this, guess what? None of you would even know this was an option, because that's the other thing I do. I try to find options that we don't think that are exist and say, I wonder if it would work. And then I go do the thing. And now the coaches look at me and go, wow, what did she do? And how did she figure that out? And my clients do that too with their money, because they look at me and they're like, gosh, you brought so many options. Yeah, I did. That's what I do. But all of us want to be told what options work so that when we present it to our clients, we look good. I'll present an option. I'll tell my client, I think some of these options may not work, or you may think I'm an idiot for saying them. And you know what? If you do, that's okay. Try them anyway. Because it's not the job of my clients to love me. It's my job to love them.
Just wanted to thank you for doing this for us.
Yes.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you, Angie. I'm going to get going too, but thanks for your time and all of
Yeah, you're
your
welcome.
insight and your experience. Very helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad. All right. And yeah, I get the napping toddler. Yeah, I keep the toddler asleep. That'll make your life a lot easier. Oh, you're welcome for the information, Stella. Absolutely. All right. Well, if I'm not hearing any other questions, David, you got anything else you want to ask me before I end this, or you're good? All right. I'm going to end this call. Thank you so much for coming, and we will see me in the group.